Hello everybody, welcome back to Aurelia, to episode 38. We moved to the opposite side of the park after spending a long time building stuff by the river. Here we built the very important outline on this side of the park, extending the local tram line and so on. We are not going to do the park today just yet, but we will finish the block that was left open after the previous episode. It's a place mostly prepared to be finished from a long time ago again, so quite a straightforward build. Let's go. We started building this area back in episode 18, so 20 episodes ago, which was a really long time ago, by the way. Now, we built a train station in there, which is an extension of the line that goes, I think it's the same track that goes back to the industrial zone, kind of loops around the city. But in the future, it's probably not going to be the same line of trains. I'm not exactly sure just yet, but that's not really important. What's important is that these tracks, I kind of wanted to go into the park and maybe somehow go back to the river, kind of loop it back. I'm not exactly sure how I really planned it, but it was clear that it cannot be that way, so we had to change it. Now, those tracks that I just positioned there are, kind of like a plan for just now, but it's probably going to be changed, or it's going to be subjected to change in the future, as we are going to focus more on the areas, past the city park, away from the downtown. I'm kind of talking a lot about that particular area, so you can kind of guess that it's going to be very important when we start expanding into that region. I'm not really sure if it's going to be the next chapter of the expansion of the city, because I kind of want to tie some loose ends, here and there on different parts of the city as well. So I'm not exactly sure when exactly we are going to see the continuation of this train line, but it's definitely going to be very interesting to then decide how all the public transport is going to, function in that part of the city. But right now, we just needed to build these tracks so we can finish this area. So that's exactly what I did. I kind of put these buildings slightly further away from each other in here in some kind of like a central corridor, and put those tracks in there. Obviously not so symmetrically with these roads or something like that, but it fits quite nicely. Obviously trying to have the turning radii for the trains a bit generous so that we can achieve some higher speeds. Maybe in the future I might actually do some kind of a soundproof barrier for that particular track, but I'm not sure if I downloaded any kind of track that already, any kind of network that already has those kinds of barriers, but it would definitely make sense in this area. Right now there are no trains, and you won't even see them in the cinematics because the trains don't have the station anywhere past this point. But anyway, enough of the tracks. We already started building these residential buildings. Now, these are literally called residential complexes, right? It's probably the name I'm going to put for this video as well, because they are kind of the defining building of this entire block, right? So it kind of makes sense that we also name it that way. Now, down below this building, we had a school. We had this, I think, Japanese school made by Ronix, if I'm not mistaken, actually. And I decided to put some kind of a building to just create some inner courtyard. And it was actually very fitting to put the exact same building because it's kind of L-shaped. So if you rotate the same building, 180 degrees, it's kind of going to form a box. So that's kind of nice. Obviously, the second building had to be used as procedural objects because I wouldn't be able to place a road right next to it, and I kind of wanted to fit it more, into the blocks around it. So that kind of made sense. So the outline of the area is kind of done almost, because this place is only going to be, like I said, defined by those residential complexes. And they are very, very big buildings. So if you're just going to place a couple of them, then you are pretty much done with whatever kind of block you're trying to do. And there's actually a lot of people going to live in this area as well. So now I'm trying to focus on this corner of that interchange, which again was built here a really, really long time ago, together with this high-rise building, which is actually a lot taller than I am using in here because I, again, used it as procedural object, again, some really long time ago, and I just made it go underground a lot so that only the few upper floors are showing. The building is really, really tall. I guess it's a real-life building as well. So I kind of want to imagine that this particular building is probably some kind of an office, maybe some industrial office building, and we're going to position a few some, let's say, industrial looking props and just decorations around it. Now, I'm trying to put these warehouses, for example, kind of make them nicely go underneath all these walls and highway ramps and all those kinds of things, so that we can fill that space quite nicely. Obviously, we are still kind of in the high density part of the city, so it kind of makes sense that we don't waste much space, especially with these industrial looking things. And this is kind of something that I really want to do, like a sunken area beneath something infrastructure related, probably highways, for example, in this case, and just make it look industrial, put some kind of like electrical substations maybe in there, or some kind of maintenance facility, something like that, something that kind of looks very futuristic. So that's that corner of the interchange. We are going to return to it to detail it a bit more, but right now in the time lapse, I decided to do this part of the residential portion of this block, and that's going to be, I'm not sure if I can call it a plaza. It's basically just stairs going down towards the underneath of the highway, and on the other side of the highway there's the tram station that we actually extended, or the tram station itself was built in the previous episode on the line that we extended in the last episode. So it's nicely coming together, the places that we built last time, right? Which is great. So we had some elevation difference, obviously. This place is actually above the highway, so we need to kind of go down quite a lot to reach the level of the park, basically, right? The road that we built last time with the tracks, with the tram. Now, as you can see, I copied the stair shape directly from the plaza that we built on the opposite side of the park in a different part of the city, and even use the same looking walls, and pretty much going to use the same style for this place as well. I'm still not sure if I can call it a plaza. Probably yes, but it's not really going to be a plaza. It's just a walkway basically to the tram station. To the tram station that's on the opposite side, like I explained. So kind of straightforward detailing. I actually decided to keep this in one long shot without really editing it too much, as you can see. So you can see the process of building this thing pretty much from the start all the way to the end without that many cuts. And it's kind of easy to do these things, especially if I already created many different plazas in the city. So it's not exactly like copy-paste of different plazas in the city, but it's very similar. Obviously, we need to customize it, procedural objects and all that. You're probably used to that. If you are following the city for quite some time, then you obviously know how these places are made. Kind of trying to put a lot of these green areas in here, planters, obviously going to be decorated quite nicely with all kinds of trees, so that it's even going to form some sort of a sound shield, soundproof barrier, green soundproof barrier made of trees to shield the noise from the highway, maybe all the way to these buildings. Now, some of you commented on the last video, I think it was the last video, that maybe I could extend the corridor for that I built for the highway. It was built a really long time ago over that hive area, the residential hive area, and maybe it could have been extended all the way to these places, maybe all the way to this interchange, but I kind of didn't really want to do that. In the last episode, I already created some retaining walls around the highway and put some like dense trees around the highway as well to block any kind of noise. And I think that's probably enough for those kinds of places. Not to mention that it's really difficult to work with the tunnel, with the props of the tunnel. Obviously had to use it as procedural objects because need to manipulate them, need to resize them, and the highway is not flat, it's not straight, so it's kind of difficult. And I think it's much better to have these kinds of variety structures all around the highway and not just put everything inside the corridor. And we are also going to put some like soundproof elements in here, apart from the tunnel, some kind of glass panels I'm going to put on that little opening above that sunken plaza. So we are going to do different kinds of things than just the tunnel. Now we are back with that industrial looking area. I really wanted to put some kind of ACs or just, I don't know, air conditioning, air filtering devices on some of these roofs, and I decided to do this asphalt roof and put the decals on it. Like I explained many times before, these decals look very good combined with the black asphalt, because they create pretty much completely different looking surface, which really does work really well for these for these roofs. I built something very, very similar when I was building the dam. Really long time ago again, and also did some kind of sunken areas with all these kinds of devices in it, which I really, really like to do from time to time. And that's kind of the common theme for even this industrial sunken area. Just have some kind of a sunken concrete, not so nice area, sunken below the grass level, kind of, to show that the city is actually probably underneath the surface built as well, with some kind of infrastructure, some kind of maintenance buildings, all kinds of control stations, electrical devices, and all those kinds of things that you might probably find in cities even today, but obviously a bit more in some futuristic cities. Anyway, we obviously need to provide some ways for pedestrians to reach all kinds of different levels. So apart from those stairs in that plaza-looking area, I'm also going to provide some elevators right next to the school in here, for example. Again, using the same looking elevator. I don't really want to use those elevators that I used 2 episodes back, because this place would not really fit them too much, I think. So I'm probably going to use them somewhere else. I'm just going to use these older elevator models that we used in the city previously, and they definitely proved themselves to be very, very nice in a lot of these areas. So no reason to change just yet. And obviously we already built some of these nearby, so that only makes sense that we are going to follow the same style. So as you can see, I'm not really cutting this episode too much in some of these shots. That's because I kind of knew what needs to be done in this place, so we can only see pretty much the straightforward detailing, covering of these surfaces, and so on. It's really nice. It's always nice to build these areas with like a pretty clear idea how it needs to be done. You don't really need to don't really need to think about it too much, and just build how it needs to be built, right? There are some details that I kind of omitted from this place that I wanted to build, but I didn't really have the things for them. For example, this little asphalt area, kind of a turn-around area, I wanted to dedicate for some school buses. I wanted to maybe create some kind of a parking lot for school buses in there, because we do have that school underneath it. So I really wanted to put it there, but unfortunately I don't have any school buses and any kind of buses as props, so that's kind of unfortunate. And at this point, I didn't really want to stop the game to download any, because it kind of takes a long time to load back in. But just wanted to continue doing stuff. All right, so as you can see, we are almost finished with this place. We are just putting some trees and all kinds of little details. As you can see, this is exactly what I was talking about. I really wanted to put some trees a bit closer to each other, right next to the highway, so we can kind of shield it off from this place, and then do some other kinds of trees and kind of flowers and detailings in this part of the block. So these entrances to the buildings, they all kind of have this little green space in front of it. Unfortunately, it's a different shade of green. From what I'm using in the city, so I kind of wanted to cover it with some bushes, so the color kind of matches the surroundings. In here, this wall in the second level of the plaza was kind of empty, so I just copied the building from the top and created some kind of maybe like a restaurant, or I don't know, ice cream shop, maybe something like that. At first I wanted to put some decals in this area, but like I said in the previous episode, I kind of don't really mind the concrete surfaces all that much lately, so I'm not really doing the tiles, decorative tiles in here, because I kind of would need to put them on the first level of the street level as well. But just like I explained in the Altegrad episode, it's really difficult to work with decals on like little corners of the streets where different roads meet, and you have curved curbs, which are really, really difficult to work with decals. So I just left it like this and put some just detailing in it to kind of break the surface into different parts. For example, those planters with the nice purple trees and stuff like that. Obviously, we need to make all this functional, so we are putting the pedestrian paths in it, 2 of them right now. We are later going to make that elevator on the opposite side of this block work as well, but it's not really needed right now, so not gonna waste time with it. But we are going to do these paths in here. So first, the elevator right next to the school, and obviously then the path through this place. And like I said, unfortunately we won't really see that many people walk in through this area in the cinematics in here, but in the future, maybe even in episode 40 when I'm going to do the cinematic episode, we might actually see a lot more movement through this place, because people really need to go to the public transport options in this area, and that's probably the tram, which is very, very close. So I'm putting some of these glass panels in here in the opening for that little plaza area, just like I said. And what is really nice is that you can really match the heights nicely with those retaining walls and those glass panels. So it really turned out looking good for that one. As you can see in here, I also switched that main avenue road for elevated segments, which means that we will probably need to do something very similar to this block on the other side of that elevated road in some future episodes, just again to kind of match together all kinds of different areas. Anyway, guys, we are almost done with this area. We're just decorating it, and that means that we are almost at the end of today's episode. Next episode, hopefully, is going to be a bit special, because we are going to go into the big city park that I'm always talking about for the couple of episodes, in the past. I'm always talking about how we are around the big city park, and in the next one, we are finally going to build it. We are going to put all kinds of trees and all kinds of nice things inside of it so that it's done. So stay tuned for that for the next episode, guys. I hope you liked today's episode. If you did, then you can always put a thumbs up underneath it. You can share the video with your friends if you think they might like it, and you can subscribe to the channel if you're new here. I will see you with some next video. Thank you for watching again. Take care and goodbye.